Tonight is Monday, November 18th. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance.
Alderman Chris Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Tim Senate is here. Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons.
Here.
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly, Vice Chair.
I'm also here.
Alderman Thomas Lopez, Chair.
I am here.
5 in attendance.
All right.
Also in attendance is actually not anybody.
I don't see any members of the public either. We have public comment due, but there are no members of the public present. Discussion, I had asked Delena's House to come and present on the Veterans Supports Programs here in Nashua. Nashua has, a functional 0 rating for placement of veterans, meaning that any veteran in the city can immediately call the coordinated entry line and should be placed in shelter within 24 hours. So anybody who's interested in that program, the coordinated entry line for anybody who's unsheltered and looking for shelter space is 1-844-800-9911. And so that is one of the intake mechanisms. The other one is through the VA. Unfortunately, I didn't give them enough time to prepare, so they asked if they could present more fully next month, which I was like, please do. So we can look forward to that. Communications?
There are none.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
New business resolutions.
We have R24-112 relative to the acceptance of $381,000 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services into Public Health and Community Services Grant Activity Fiscal Year 2025 ELC Community Health Worker Grant.
Okay.
I will make a motion to recommend final passage.
All right. We've heard the motion. There does not appear to be anybody presenting to us tonight, and we don't have a communication regarding this. It is familiar, though. The community health workers grant is typically the outreach programs that are being done, as well as the people who are the public health department staff that are monitoring inoculations, vaccinations, and general services to the community. So what is the will of the committee? Do we feel like we are knowledgeable about this enough to pass it, or do we want to request a communication prior to next session, or do we want to table it?
We both are here.
Okay. That's exactly, sorry, who's going first?
You go first.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, sorry, Chairman, that's exactly what that program is all about. It's a grant that comes to help them do vaccinations and all kind of community work with the healthcare worker. They also said they was going to hire a temporary person to help with this grant.
Okay, and just for the record, I am not like somehow knowledgeable. I just happen to be the liaison for the Board of Public Health previously, and Alderman Timmons is the current. So,
Right,
yeah,
but I'm just saying exactly what you said, that's all. I'm just,
that's all right. I just wanted to clarify that you have
agreeing
a
with what you
formal
just
role, and that's how you're aware of these things, and I'm not
Yes.
like some kind of
Okay.
genius reader. Alderman Kelly?
I was just gonna say, I feel comfortable pushing this forward. I think it's good funding that we get, and that it's important for the community health workers to be able to do the work that they do, especially as it gets colder and all the other things that are going on in our city. So I don't want to hold this up.
Okay, and this is, for 2025, it should already be accounted for in terms of budgetary process.
Yep.
And it actually carries through 2026.
There we go.
That part,
Through halfway through, let's.
well, that we have to revisit for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Alderman Thibodeau?
My question. Pass-through, or is this actually a state of New Hampshire grant? Does anybody know that?
I would expect that everything that comes from the state of New Hampshire is a pass-through.
More than
It's
likely.
like
I just wanted to
the
make
kept
sure.
secret that they
That's
all
a good
are.
question.
right.
So unless I am aware of something otherwise, and we can ask them to make a clarification comment on that, but I think it is a pass-through. I think it's just money that national taxpayers paid out, went to the federal government, they stamped whatever they wanted to do with it, and then the state of New Hampshire accepted it and is dispersing it for them.
Chairman, pass.
Alderman Timmons has her hand.
Oh, thank you. That's exactly what it is. It's a pass-through.
Okay. Senate, you're supposed to be spotting these. What's going on? Okay. All right, well, I think without any, without objection, we will recommend final passage for this. Actually, you know what, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, we'll recommend final passage, and Alderman Thibodeau, I can ask for a written clarification, but I think Alderman Timmons and I are pretty confident that it is a pass-through.
I'm assuming that's what.
New business ordinances,
There are none.
table in committee,
There is none.
general discussion.
Oh, sure.
Get it, Alderman Timmons.
All right. At our last full board meeting, I had expressed concern about the movement in regard to the overnight warming shelter. We've since received a communication that a building has been identified. We're still in the RFP process, so I'm hoping that that pans out like it did last year and that we get somebody interested in facilitating that for us. But just wanted to make sure that folks knew that I was following the progress of this very closely. I'm still a little concerned that we are where we are without a foundation in place to ensure that this is going up. I was almost a little disappointed to get on one of the many social media outlets out there this week and learn that Manchester already has theirs slated and ready to open and has some very nice amenities that they'll be offering in addition to just a place to come in from the elements. Folks will be able to come in and actually get a hot shower and do some laundry, in addition to the snacks and coffee and a place to sit down where it's not snowing. So I know it's been said in this chamber before that we shouldn't model ourselves after anything Manchester is doing, but would kind of like to see us doing something more akin to that, because that actually sounds like a very nice service, but hopefully we'll get there one day.
And, I mean, we can take their good ideas. And our community has had similar amenities to those. Particularly, I would highlight the soup kitchen. Before them, Harbor Care was doing similar activities, and when Hearts was over there. And so when you look at things like laundry and showers, those are, we call them amenities, as though it's like a hotel and you're getting extra stuff. But they're crucial for health, hygiene, and for function. When you have people who are sleeping outside or unsheltered, they're not so great. They're not so enthusiastic about waking up in the morning and not having a place to shower or do stuff, especially when they're essentially camping. So those are crucial. Just from a health maintenance standpoint, the last thing they need to be doing is having issues with what happens when you don't shower regularly and you're in very dirty conditions. And then being able to maintain their clothes. A lot of those clothes have sentimental value or attachment value, and if they're not able to even maintain that, then what kind of dignity do they have? When we say go get a job, like with what interview clothes? So it's very practical. The soup kitchen, I know, moved into its new location with that in mind, and the systems were heavily used to the point where they struggle and have had to have at least 2 renovations that I know of to keep up with the demand. Harbor Care was doing it for a while as well, under more restrictive circumstances, and that was a sort of a feature of the Safe Station program as well. So those do need to be in some of the future models. That was in the presentation that LaTanya, I think her name was, had presented to us at the meeting before last, I want to say. And so they are essential, and I think that is contemplated. I think what's missing between us and Manchester is we don't have an easy location that's anywhere near the downtown area. And while some people might say, oh, well, it's good to move them somewhere else, it's not. It doesn't matter if you build an amazing shelter, out in Antrim, and nobody can go there. It has to be close enough that people can, A, access it, and then B, access our public transportation network, the other services, and the resources. So location is key. And that means that finding something downtown that's, accessible to the people who need it and acceptable to the other people that are in the area is a major factor. So there aren't a lot of locations like that. There's a couple possibilities that we're still pursuing. And I know in the communication that the board received, they did say that they had worked on at least one other site. And I had recommended one earlier this year that was also looked at, but ultimately, the organization that was managing it imploded. So it's very difficult to just put these things together and stand them up. Now that we have action, it's encouraging, but we also have to make sure that the public is able to be aware of it. We need to lead as leaders and make sure they're supportive of it, and we have to help them staff it quickly. because every day they're looking to fill a shift is a day that people are outside. So I think at the moment, we have to triage and start with, well, let's get something operational, but then you're right, we need to build on it, and we need to expand on it and figure out how to make it something that actually serves the community's full needs. Alderman Kelly?
You have so many things I want to say. So I was happy to hear that there's diligent work being done on the warming station, and that's, something that we obviously need. I know that they've been working pretty hard on that, so looking forward to hearing how that will pan out. The other comment here I'm on the board of the soup kitchen, so I've heard over and over again this sort of over the need for a day program and that place for people to go, because most shelters, you're done at breakfast and you have to find somewhere to be. It's an incredibly hard thing to staff, to manage, and so that's why we're continually trying to have conversations around that, and I know that there's not a day that goes by where we're not talking about that. And then I was talking about leading. You mentioned leading. I just came from the Housing Revolving Fund meeting. We just voted to give funds to a landlord incentive program so that they can help to house people who, with landlords who may be a little hesitant to work with somebody who is a voucher or low income. And the people at the Front Door Agency will be implementing that, and they came in and spoke to us for about an hour about their expertise, how long they've been in Nashua doing this kind of work, and I'm excited to see something a little bit different and innovative coming out of that. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that too, and I'll be checking that meeting out. There's some wild inconsistencies between the expectations and their applicability in accessing housing in this city particularly. Housing and rent costs have gone up, but none of the fixed income programs have gone up, and arguably even a lot of the most ubiquitous jobs that a person could work haven't really increased to keep up with the increase in rent prices. And yet most landlords will point to a best practice policy of, well, you should save 33% of your income for housing. Therefore, if you don't have at least 3 times what the rent is, then you wouldn't qualify. And that's very difficult for people to meet. It's also, there's very little forgiveness when it comes to an eviction, and there's no context. Like, all landlords are treated equal, and you could have a complete slumlord evicting people so they can collect their security deposits and make off with them, and they'll get the same kind of credibility as like a respected, established landlord that spent, weeks or so trying to collect funds or come up with solutions or whatever, and, it just didn't work out. Just calling an eviction, I think there's no scaling of that. And so you look at that on the record, and most landlords aren't necessarily going to look at where, who, or why that eviction happened.
I have a question, and I don't know if you're able to answer this question. When can a landlord evict a tenant? Is it after so many days, or is after non-payment of rent past 30 days? Do you have that idea, or any idea?
Well, the answer just changed because there are restrictions from the state of New Hampshire on cold weather and during cold weather periods. Sometimes the causes of eviction can be related to public health issues or occupation ability of the apartment. Sometimes people are making partial payments but not full payments. So the answer definitely varies. That would be something that we would probably want to ask City Welfare and maybe even the Building and Health Departments to come and present on.
Yeah.
And we've had the New Hampshire legal assistants come and present on that in the past. So without overpacking the December meeting, I probably could bring those in because I think we will probably be getting a lot more constituents asking for help with those kind of things or how they should resolve those. And I think it's a function of this committee to make sure that all of its members are able to navigate those situations.
I think that's a good idea.
Definitely want to bring in a couple of those agencies. I'll reach out to them and see what their availability is. Alderman Thibodeau?
I don't know if anybody here knows, but are they going to be able to utilize the shower rooms at the school?
I'm not sure what proximity they are to the location that's being contemplated. I think that's something we'd probably need the the Department of Public Health to present on, like what's their plan and how is it going to be used. The memo said that they would be segregating the area being used from any youth athletic activities or shows. I wasn't even aware there were youth athletic activities in there, so I think they might have been just preparing in the event that there were.
Yeah, that was news to me too.
Sort of Boy, I was so eager to see Elm Street utilized because I thought gymnasium, showers.
So logically speaking, like if there's no athletic activities happening there, then sure, they could use the showers as long as they can figure out how do people go back and forth, how are they supervised, how's that managed? Most like shelter or overnight programs, if you're using the shower and all that kind of stuff, then they're one person showers, so.
Right.
We would have to see how that's applied, and I think that's part of the work that might need to be looked at, is what is achievable in this location, or is this just a start to get people through the winter and we need to continue working on developing it? That's where I think, at the moment, public health is very occupied trying to get it up and off the ground, and so there's too many things in the air for them to be able to present a fully intact model. But, I mean, the cold weather is here. The longest weekend of the year is approaching. Thanksgiving weekend is paradoxically the worst weekend to be homeless, because you're basically looking at 5 days without anybody to turn to. So while everybody's celebrating, while everybody's giving out turkeys, you're out there in the cold. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure to get this done and to get programs up and running and open. And I mean, I know it can look a little bit chaotic, but I have direct personal experience setting up Safe Station. There's some very good planners in the city that are working on that, and when our departments are working together, if police, fire, and public health are working on it, they'll make sure it's a good, sustainable model. Alderman Thibodeau?
And then with the staffing, do they utilize volunteers for that kind of thing as well?
If I could.
Yep.
So I just actually asked Director Sullivan. He said that they are gonna come and speak next Tuesday to give us some more detail on this.
Okay.
So, I mean, your questions are very valid,
Yeah.
but it sounds like we're gonna have a formal communication with what they've figured out so far, and that they will come and talk to the board as well, so we can ask some questions then, and maybe have someone who knows the answers.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to contradict or undermine any planning being done with speculation. I would say that most likely the easiest way to start this off is going to be a per diem payment model, where you have to be an employee, you have to sign up for it, but you would take shifts ad hoc and then build up a more regular plan. Alderman Dissent?
Yeah, I know, I believe what we did last year was we actually contracted out with an outside organization who, per the contract that they signed with the city, they were responsible for staffing and everything that goes with it, human resources, pay, overtime, what have you. And just on another note, as we, contemplate the viability of the school and everything, just to put it out into the universe,
Okay.
in the spirit of proactivity, now is also the time to start thinking that, we just heard last week that there's, something like 4 to 5 proposals that they've received for the Elm Street site for redevelopment. There's a very strong possibility that that's not an option for us next year. And so
I will tip my hat to any developer who comes up with a plan and is actually shovel-ready by next year, but you're right, that is something they'll have to consider.
Yeah, no, I don't imagine we'll be turning shovels by this time next year, but the point remains that, if we are moving forward with a proposal for Elm Street, then that it's probably going to exclude the option for city use for such activities such as this. So we really need to be thinking ahead now, so that we're
And
not
I
in
would-
the same situation again a year from now.
In that spirit, I would also say we also have to kind of rein ourselves in politically. We can't just turn away from this and be like, oh, well, we have that now. So these are things that need active political support and maintenance.
Yeah.
So we can't be like, oh, we have this, so the solution is fine. And then come budget time, we decide to put, $250,000 in somebody's conference fund and then not raise the public health budget, accordingly. We're gonna have to look at the budget and how it's configured and say, okay, well, what is an absolute need? Because this program was included in the bonding priority presentations and the capital improvement committee, and both of them gave it a low ranking. So I can't speak to the exact priorities. Maybe the program was given the low ranking because they didn't have a brick and mortar location yet. But those are things we're gonna have to keep an eye out as a committee for, that ultimately we are making sure that we collectively prioritize the need, where it really affects businesses. We have businesses that will be first in line to say, we have a problem downtown. We have people who are, needing to go to the bathroom and don't have a place to go, or need to be somewhere and they're in the wrong place. And that affects business, that affects the branding of downtown and the overall, climate. So we need to support this as eagerly and energetically as we support any other economic or community development projects, because it is all part of the same community fabric. Any further comments? All right, well, definitely we'll look forward to that presentation when it comes. Hopefully that will be communicated to the board as well. And we'll get more information when it comes. Public comments, still seeing no members of the public here. Remarks by Alderman, anyone have any remarks they would like to share? I will make a couple of comments. Number one, Nashua Veterans Promise is starting its Holiday for Veterans program. They are feeding veterans on Thanksgiving morning. You can go to different restaurants, I think Joanne's Kitchen, Caribbean Breeze, or their website if you want to sponsor a meal for that purpose. Then they will be putting bins out downtown to collect holiday decorations so that the veterans can start decorating their hallways. They'll be decorating the common area of Delena's house ahead of the holiday stroll. And then throughout the whole holiday season, I think you're going to see different opportunities. So if you're interested in supporting homeless veterans and helping them connect with our community, probably check out Nashua Veterans Promise. I know the holiday stroll is coming up. That will be the Saturday evening after Thanksgiving. So that's a great time. It's organized by Great American Downtown. There's a lot of different organizations that are going to be involved with that. So just some upcoming events that are definitely worth checking out. Alderman Kelly?
Well, now I have to add. Harbor Care has their Thanksgiving community dinner on Tuesday. You have to be a veteran. It's open to all. And that's at 11:30 at their headquarters of 45 High Street.
Also, I don't necessarily announce these kind of things regularly, but I will mention also that on December 1st, it's a little outside the wheelhouse of regular things to announce, but there's a How the West Was Won pub crawl, which is sponsored by Involved Impact, and it is a fundraiser, but it's in Ward 4, and it's kind of interesting to me particularly because we don't do enough with West Hollis. So bringing the different businesses there together to cooperate on a project like this and then opening up to the public, it's a great opportunity to kind of get to know the businesses that are there, because we do definitely all sort of know well the business owners going north and south, but east and west, there's some pretty great communities. West Hollis is one, West Pearl is another. So hopefully this will kind of bring exposure to them, and maybe it'll kick off some new regional partners and communities. All right, with nothing further, can I get a motion?
Oh, move to adjourn.
All right.
Sorry. What are you looking at me for?
All those in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Oh my God.